One of the greatest feelings ever is when you finally learn to own and accept your insecurities. Okay, this is a feeling that I feel like everyone should get to experience because it's the most liberating feeling that you can feel. You know, all of the things that hold you back, you learn to accept them. And what you realize is that once you accept them, other people accept them as well. And these insecurities dissipate. You know, they disappear into thin air because your insecurities are based on the way that other people are going to perceive you. Okay, you're not worried about what you think. You're worried about what other people are going to think. So when you give yourself that validation, then even if people don't give you that validation, it's okay because you have that validation from within. So you no longer seek it from other people.
I am Cedric Hawkins, and welcome to the CedTalks Podcast. I hope you guys had a great Christmas and a great New Year's. You know, we're coming out with this episode in 2021. I'm recording this in 2020, but nonetheless, I'm happy to be able to sit down and talk with you guys. My guest today is a student at at Salisbury University, and quite frankly, I see this guy doing big things in his future. I'm proud to have him on the show tonight, and I'm looking forward to what he's going to bring to the table. So without further ado, here is Spencer Cooper. Spencer, welcome to the show.
Hey Cedric, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
I feel honored to be here.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And like we said, before I started recording, like I'm honored to have you on the show. Like there's so many people who I've been looking to, speak with and just catch up because we had some good times coming up as kids, and so I'm definitely looking forward to this time with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, we go back, man, back in Miss Reed's class.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Shout out Miss Reed.
Shout out to Miss Reed, exactly. I still have the yearbook actually. You had the shaggy long hair. I had my hair all cut back. Yeah, man.
That's right, man.
We had some good times, man. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
For sure.
Yeah. Right off the bat, man, how was your semester at Salisbury? I know this was some pretty, we're going through some weird times, right? Everything is so unorthodox. So how was your semester at Salisbury?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. Like you said, it was weird. It was a lot, lot to get used to, a lot of adjustments that, I had to make, and, as did everybody else. Salisbury was kind of like did a hybrid course class system this year. So I had, two of my classes were actually in person, but then I had two that were online. So it was definitely an adjustment, but, I can't complain. My grades were good, and, I came out with, I was happy with the way I did. So
yeah, that's crazy. You're the first person who I've talked to, and they've actually gone to class in person while also balancing the online model. Because pretty much everybody, it's just been on the computer. How was that for you, balancing both?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird. I know not just for the students, but for the teachers, because they had never really done anything like that. So it was definitely a learning experience for everybody. But, it's just college. A lot of college is basically just time management. And, I tried to stay organized. I tried to plan out, all right, what do I need to do, Monday? What do I need to do Tuesday and Wednesday? And just sort of tried to, get what I could done and take it day by day, pretty much.
Yeah, I would say for me, during the spring semester, back in the spring, I was already juggling with 3 classes in person and then 2 classes online. So in a way, I was almost prepared for the aspect of this pandemic happening because I was also doing some time management myself. And it was like, even though I wasn't going on campus, it was like still, I was able to figure out the balance between both. So it's always good to figure out that balance.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, it's something that it took a little bit of time, but, once you get the hang of it, you sort of get back into the swing of things, and it sort of just, starts to become repetition, and, you get used to it.
Mm-hmm. Do you prefer the online format more, or do you like the in-person model more?
Yeah, so I definitely like, being in person. I'm a very extroverted person. I love talking to people. I like being in class. I've always learned a little bit better, being in person and being able to just see everybody and talk to everybody and interact with people. I'm not gonna lie, the online class was pretty nice. You just roll out of bed, pretty much just stay in what you're wearing, and
exactly.
You're already ready to go to class. So
yeah, I would say the hardest thing with me with the online class was like there were so many distractions in my room because there would be some times where I didn't want to leave my room and I would just do class like literally in bed with the camera off. But it's like there's so many distractions. Like I could play Xbox and listen to my professor at the same time, but it's like I probably shouldn't. I should probably take notes.
Yeah, no, same, dude. I mean, it it was weird. I mean, I had roommates home, and I could hear what everybody else was doing downstairs. And I mean, yeah, like you said, like sometimes I'd just turn off the screen and start, looking at my phone, and then realize I missed like 5 minutes of whatever my teacher was saying. So
Yeah, exactly. Just start scrolling on Snapchat or Twitter or Instagram. It's crazy.
yeah, right.
Yeah, but I gotta ask though, like, it's crazy just to think how this pandemic has truly shaped and changed everything, especially back in March, because nobody really expected all of this to happen. Did you expect that to happen back in March for everything to be shut down?
Absolutely not, dude. I mean, I remember hearing about it, like, probably like January, February, I started hearing about like COVID-19, like coronavirus, COVID-19. And I remember at that time it was like not really in the U.S. yet. And but people were kind of calling for it to come over. And I was just thinking like, yeah, sure. Like, I'm sure, we might go home from school for like maybe a week, and then, everything will get back to normal. But, I definitely, it's just been crazy, man.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I work at a daycare, and so I had 2 kids in my classroom. They were talking about coronavirus, the Chinese virus, and, I was dismissing it like, there's no such thing, right? It's not going to come
Right.
to the United States. And then all of a sudden, you find out that class is shut down for 2 weeks, and then it's going to be shut down for like a month and a half. And it's like, oh my goodness, like all my plans for what I wanted to do was just up in smoke.
Right. And it's funny. I actually had I remember like the first I ever really heard about it was one of my classes. It was like we had to give presentations, and one of the students in the class gave a presentation on coronavirus like right before it blew up. And I remember like her like closing remarks about it were literally, this is going to lock down the United States for well over a year. And everybody was just sitting in the class like what? Like, what do you, like, for real? Like, it was just wild to think about.
Yeah. Did you at all have any difficulty adjusting during those periods where you were pretty much stuck at home and had nothing to do? You couldn't really go out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, I'm definitely not the only one, but that was rough for me. I mean, like I said before, I like being around people. I'm pretty much, an extrovert. So I like hanging out with friends. It's hard for me to sort of just be locked in and enclosed into my house, and, not being able to go out and do things. And the gyms were closed, and, work was, my work at the time was, taking a couple of months off. So it was definitely, hard to adjust to that.
Yeah, I would say with me, I'm more of an ambivert. So I am an extrovert with introverted qualities. So I do have those times where I like to have my space and like to have time to myself. So like the first month and a half was great, and then once we rolled into May and June, it was just like, oh my goodness, when is this gonna end? Like, I want to get back to hanging out with my friends. Like, I was attending CSM at the time and I couldn't graduate, so that was a huge blow, and that just devastated me to no end. So I definitely do agree. I believe as humans we're all social beings, and we do need that social interaction. And so it was hard, and it's still hard, because a lot of families, they can't really go out of town and spend time with their own family because they have to stay home.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said, it was tough to, sort of get used to the new normal, as they call it.
Yeah. What helped you stay grounded during those times and just kept your mind occupied and busy, when you were stuck in the house during those periods of times?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely the whole pandemic, the whole lockdown, in a way, was sort of a little bit of a blessing in disguise for me, because I mean, what really kept me grounded, and I know we spoke before a little bit about this, and I'm sure I know you also yourself are, religious, and
Yep.
for me, definitely sort of starting to really get back into my faith in God. That was something that I had sort of put off all throughout my freshman year of college, and it's something that I really didn't pay much attention to. But when everything was closed down, and when I realized, well, I'm going to be stuck at my house for well over half of a year, so it's hard when you don't have those other distractions, and it's pretty much you're just with yourself. And one of the main things I wanted to do, I wanted to learn, and I wanted to grow, and sort of come out of that, come out of the pandemic, and be sort of the best version of myself that I could be. And for me, that was really, committing to, my relationship with God. And, and really, whether that was reading the Bible, starting to pray a little bit more, and, really just getting involved with what I could in terms of like the church and ministry and all that type of stuff.
What a testimony, man. That's beautiful to be able to get that relationship back with God, because, Scripture says he will never leave us nor forsake us. And that's the truth. We could be 10, 15, 20 years away from God and just living our own lives, but in the end, he still has that love for us, and he cares so much about us that he will still cover us and protect us in those moments where we think we don't have that love or we don't deserve that love.
Absolutely, man. I mean, that's, you hit the nail right on the head there.
Yeah, and I've had those moments too where, I've screwed up, I've made a mistake here and there, and it's like, God's gonna hate me for this. He's probably up there shaking his head at me, like,
right.
God's gonna stop loving me. And it's like, God, he'll never turn his back on you. And that's just such a beautiful thing, because friends, they'll turn their back on you. Even family can turn their back on you. But, the love of Jesus Christ, he will never, ever, turn his back on you once you give your life to him.
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah. Do you feel that God placed this pandemic on us to allow us to create and tap into our creative sides?
I do. I mean, I think, everything, I think one of the things I've tried to, sort of realize is that, God can bring good out of anything, really, and I mean, I think this, for me personally, I think it allowed me to start, playing. I started to get back into my guitar. I used to take guitar lessons when I was like really young, like 10, 11 years old. And, I still have my guitar here, and I was like, man, like I used to love this. I don't know why I stopped ever. And the same thing with, with skateboarding. Like that was something that, when I was younger, I used to love. And I just sort of, got involved with sports, and then, you go to college and you sort of forget about, some of the things you used to love doing when you're a kid. And, I think, in terms of the creativity, that's, really, I think maybe was a blessing in disguise for me, that I was able to, put some time into that and learn and try new and different things.
Yeah, that's cool. I had no idea you played guitar as a kid. Like that's a fact that I'm just learning just now.
Yeah, I wasn't very good, but I'm learning.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually wanted to learn how to play the piano during the that quarantine period from like April to May, and like I downloaded this app and I tried teaching myself like different songs and stuff. I stopped doing it because I focused more on the podcast, but like I said, I agree. Like I do think God wanted us to, just start tapping into what he instilled in us, right? We all have different skills. And so I think he didn't just want us to just sit there and just wish that things were different. I think he wanted us to use the time that we had off to just create and do stuff.
Right, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so shifting gears from that, I want to talk to you about your childhood growing up here in Calvert County. Talk to me about that from your perspective. How was life as a child like for you here?
Well, so, like I said, I was the youngest of three. We moved here when I was in first grade. So, that was my first class was, when we were in Miss Reed's class. And, Calvert County, I consider that my home. I know I moved, I'm in Annapolis now, but, that's where I grew up. That's, where I made, some of the friends that I, still very good friends that I have today. And really, my experience with, I was fortunate enough to be enrolled in Calvert County public schools, which, they're, some of the best schools in the country. And, my experience has been pretty great, and I got involved with, sports and, started to meet new people, and, there are connections that I still have to this day.
Yeah. Talk to me about that adjustment when you moved from Annapolis, because I know before, I started recording, we were talking about how you moved to Annapolis after senior year. Did you have a hard time adjusting to that change, or did you just pick up on it naturally?
Well, so it was, it wasn't so much moving to Annapolis that was, the difficult part. I guess the harder part was because that was when we moved in the summer, but then when I went to college, when I went to Salisbury my freshman year, that was probably more so, that was harder for me to adjust because, when thinking about like, oh, well, I'll get to go home, over Christmas break, it's like, it wasn't really home, so I would, I looked forward to going and seeing my friends, when I'd get back, when the semester was finished, and, it was, it was a little weirder going back to a house that I had barely ever been in, but it's nice that I'm only 45 minutes away.
Yeah, exactly. And, we'll definitely talk about that later on. Just life after high school. That was a big topic that I wanted to touch on. But, I think it's cool and all that. Not a lot of kids really pick up and go to a different area when they graduate straight out of high school. So I think that was cool from your point of view or your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as a kid, what were some of the values that your parents instilled in you growing up?
Well, like I talked about earlier, growing up, I come from, a Christian family, right? We were always, they instilled in me pretty much, the values that were taught in the Bible, and I'm really grateful, for, looking back, I'm very grateful for the structure and some of the values that they, held me to. And, at the time it, felt like, well, it just kind of seems like a, big long list of rules that I have to follow. And, I don't really understand the reason behind them, but, they taught me to treat everybody like I want to be treated. They taught me to love, be kind to everybody, see people as people, not as objects. And, really just at the end of the day, love your neighbor as yourself. That was kind of the main thing. And, I was fortunate enough to be the youngest of three brothers. And, if I didn't have, the two of my older brothers as well behaved as they were, and they were, and still to this day are some of the best role models that I have in my life. And seeing how well they did in school and with growing up, and how much people admired them for the way that they lived their life. That really spoke volumes about them, and I grew up witnessing that and seeing that, so that made me want to be just like that. And I really, I was just talking to my mom about that the other day. Like if I didn't have, Zach and Alex are their names, if they weren't in my life, who knows where I'd be. And again, my parents and the way that they raised us and taught us how to behave and how to treat people with respect was something that I still hold near and dear to me.
Wow, that's cool, man. And with me, I'm not sure if you may agree with it or not, but I believe that it takes a village to raise one person. And with me, not only did I have my parents, I had my grandparents, my cousins, aunts and uncles, and the church as well that kept me structured and guided me in the right direction. So it's pretty cool that you had your brothers to look up to.
Yeah, dude, absolutely, man. And
Yeah.
like you said, it's definitely, it takes, it takes a lot.
It does. I'm glad you actually touched on, like, when you were a kid, right? Going to church, reading the Bible, looking at the different rules and stuff in the Bible, and it didn't really make sense to you. I definitely agreed with that. I got back into the church when I was 12, and I was in church every Sunday, and I had no idea what my pastor was talking about every single Sunday.
Right.
I know he was talking about something. A lot of people and they were in the crowd. They were going, amen, amen.
Right,
They was
man.
doing all that, and it's like I'm turning my head like I don't really get this. At what age did it really click for you, where you really understood what this Christianity lifestyle was all about?
Well, for me, it was, I had always kind of, like you said, I always grew up in the church, and, we every Sunday, and right, we were, I went to youth group and, would, read my Bible every so often. But, all throughout, elementary, middle school, it was pretty much just like, all right, why am I, I don't really understand, what's going on. I was very naive at the time. But probably, once I started to get into high school and, I realized, just some of the other, whether it be on my, sports team or just friends in school, would sort of look at me and sort of ask, well, why are you the way you are? Like I didn't, at least in high school, I didn't really, go out all that much, every now and then. Yeah. But, for me, it was always kind of, it felt like, a list of rules that I had to follow, right? And, my parents, they wouldn't let me do certain things or go certain places. And I remember thinking like I don't really know why. Like I just kind of do. It was just kind of how I was raised. And, it was just something my brothers did. So, and that's why I talk about, them being the role models in my life. And, if I hadn't seen how they were, I probably would have been off the deep end. But, this kind of takes me into college where, my freshman year, I sort of strayed away from it, and, everything kind of started to change for me, and I didn't really like the person I was becoming. And I mean, you could see it in my grades. The first semester of freshman year was the worst I had ever done. My priorities weren't straight. I didn't like, how I was. I didn't treat people like I used to. And then it kind of clicked for me and made sense. And it was like, oh, like all the rules, quote unquote rules that, come with, the Bible and, following God. It's, they're not for, they're not just to, put a damper on the fun, but, they're for my own good. They're for my own protection. And it went from being something that I felt like I had to do for reasons I didn't understand to something that I truly wanted to do, now that I could see like the change. So it kind of, in a way, like, yeah, it took me, like, I tend to be like, I'm pretty dumb when it comes to learning. I always learn the hard way.
Same
so
here.
It took me, doing horrible my first semester of college and, going out and partying and, doing whatever, instead of, putting priorities on, my academics. It took me, the hard way to learn. But, I finally understood, like, oh, these are for my own good.
Yeah. Bro, I connect with that because it always seems like whenever I stray away from God, it's almost like bad things start to happen and things start to just fall down in my life and everything isn't as in order as I would like it to be. And of course, I shouldn't be always trying to micromanage and be in control of everything. But it's like if I don't take time out of the day to really connect with God and hear his voice and talk with him, it's almost like my day kind of digresses and it's not as great as it should be.
Right. Absolutely, dude.
Yeah. And it's like, I remember in high school with me, I knew God, I knew Christ, but I wasn't living my life for them. I was putting other things, in front of me. I was caring about other people's opinions. I was caring about the car I drove, the clothes I wore, the money in my wallet, right? I cared about materialistic stuff. I wasn't really focused on God, even though I was going to the church. And once I started my freshman year at CSM, it was just a really hard adjustment to go from, Huntingtown, taking 3 classes, you're going home at 10 o'clock in the morning, you're pretty much living your life. Now you have college classes, you have new responsibilities, and it was really difficult. And I was still going to church, but I really didn't, understand what I was learning. And it wasn't until, I got a D in math. I never got a D in math, and it just killed me. It broke me inside. But that's when, God humbled me and he built me back up into becoming the person that he created me to be. And so, like you said, I tend to learn the hard way sometimes. Even now, I learn the hard way because sometimes I can be very stubborn and I don't like to listen to God, but he always finds a way to humble me and teach me a valuable lesson and coming to him with my problems and not trying to do it on my own.
Dude, I mean, literally everything that you just said right there is like, I can relate to, man. I mean, it's definitely true. I mean, there's always, something that can humble you and, get you back on the right path.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, I didn't think we would connect like this and vibe like this on the podcast, but
man, we're getting deep.
I know, man. It's like once we started talking like a few months ago, talking God and all that stuff, I was like, oh, he's religious. Like, finally, there's someone who kind of thinks like me in a way. But I'm loving this. I'm digging this.
Hey, same here, man.
Yeah. How do you feel that, God has blessed you this year? Because, like I said earlier, we're going through some really hard stuff. But how do you feel like he's blessed you this year?
Well, so I'll just, 2020, I mean, obviously crazy year, like for everybody. And, I said earlier, the pandemic and the quarantine for me was sort of a blessing in disguise. I mean, I had so much, just growth, whether it's spiritually, mentally, and, physically, I felt better, just getting back into, his word. And I mean, and there's obviously, I had help, I had accountability, I had people, like I still keep in touch with, my old youth pastor, at the church I used to go to in Calvert County, and he still, checks in on me and, my brothers and my family. So I definitely, God, I guess for me, blessed me by just being able to sort of really take the time and like forget about all the distractions, forget about everybody else, what everybody else is thinking, and sort of just work on me for a little bit. And, not only, just, reading the Bible and, getting back into, God's word, but, I took a lot of time to, physically, like, exercise and weight training has always been a huge part of my life, and that's something that I started to take a little more seriously. And I'll be honest, man, 2020 was a hard year. I mean, especially, and I know I'm not the only one here, but I mean, I think mental health this year has probably been the worst for people our age it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I think, for me personally, I'll just be honest with you, I had to that was something I had to face, something I had to deal with. I've dealt with anxiety and stress, depression for years. And that's something I never really wanted to do about. It was something I always felt like, oh no, I got a handle on it. I can control it. I know I'll be all right. I wanted to keep it in the dark, right? I wanted to act, I wanted to present, an image to people that I'm all right. I'm fine. But, I actually I went to go see a counselor, and I went to go talk about some things. And I think that's another blessing. I was finally able to open up to a professional and go get help. And that's, that was this year. Not many people know that. Pretty much nobody, except my family, my girlfriend know that. But
wow.
Now everybody knows that listening.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Whatever, bro. We're getting deep.
Oh yeah, man. Absolutely, man.
Absolutely.
That's a blessing to be able to.
Right. And it, and it helped. And I think, one of the things that I think our, culture and, the world would try to tell you is that, you can do this. You can handle it. You got this on your own. And it's well, what if I don't? You know what I mean? What if you can't?
Right.
And that's where, for me, and I'm sure, you as well, that's where, my faith comes in. That's where God and, Jesus and, all of that, the Bible and going to church. And that's where all of that comes in and sort of gives me hope.
Yeah.
And I started to take that more seriously. And, this semester, I mean, I got great grades. I got into a really awesome sales program at Salisbury that, that's what I want to do.
Nice.
So, that was great. And I just found that out earlier in the month. So, it's something that another blessing that, has just been amazing for me.
Yeah, man. Congratulations to you on that. That's incredible.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, I got to say with me, I've had a very rough year. I'm not sure if you knew, I lost my dad 3 months ago, suddenly passed away. And,
oh, man. I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. And it's been on top of dealing with my anxiety and stress that I usually deal with this time of the year, it's now I have that added cloud, above all of that. But it's being able to, be in tune with my emotions. As men in our community, we don't show emotion. We're not supposed to show emotion. We're just supposed to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and put on a happy face or put your strong face on and just get on with your life. And it's with me, I can't do that now. I have to be in tune with my emotions. And
right.
Some days I'm not okay. And to have the power to say, look, today's not the day. I'm not doing okay. That's a lot of power. Because a year ago, 2 years ago, I would never do that. I would keep it to myself. I would experience a mental shutdown where I just blocked out everybody and just wouldn't talk to people. And now that I'm able to be in tune with my emotions, it's I feel more, confident in myself. I feel like I can actually open up to the right people and just talk to them. And I've also been to counseling, like you said, I started seeing a therapist 2 years ago because of the issues I was dealing with. And it's helped me out a lot. And even now, being able to express my emotions and how I feel and not be judged by it and find solutions to help with my anxiety. It's a blessing.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I can relate to a lot of that, man. I mean, it's, I think once you sort of bring it to the surface and, connect with your emotions, like you said, I mean, it's, it sort of changes your perspective a little bit and, allowing, God to come in and work, definitely can, really help.
Yeah, the one thing I prayed on probably in October, it was just God, what do you want me to do? I go out in public, I go to work, I feel like I'm not understood by everybody. It's what do you want me to do? And he was just, be transparent, be open with people, be honest with the people that care about you. And me being hard-headed, I was really?
Right.
Do that? I don't want to do that. And so there was a period of time where I didn't do that. But once I started doing it, like I said earlier, I felt more better and it didn't feel like I was carrying this really heavy weight on my shoulders.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. I mean, that's, you just went through something that, that's one of the hardest things to get through, man. And you sound like you're getting through it, man.
Yeah, getting through it, learning to live with it. I'm not okay. I'm still healing from it, but I'm learning to live with it. And hopefully, when that day comes and I'll be able to get to a point where it doesn't hurt me as much, I look forward to that day.
Yeah, dude, absolutely, man. Hey, man, I'll be praying for you, and keep getting better, man.
Thank you, man. Now, let's talk about sports. I knew growing up you were big into sports as a kid. What were some of the sports that you loved to do as a kid growing up?
Okay, yeah, so definitely, baseball was probably, my favorite sport. I played soccer when I was young, but I never really got into that, but basketball was another one. So baseball and basketball were definitely the two sports that were like, I couldn't get enough of.
Yeah, did you play at Huntingtown? I feel like you did. I don't remember.
Yeah, I played basketball. I only played, JV, the freshman and sophomore year, but Huntingtown, for baseball, I played all 4 years.
Yeah. I figured you did sports. I just couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Was that something you wanted to do as a kid, or did your parents, force you to do it? Or not force, I don't want to say force, but put you into it?
Yeah. No, I always wanted to do sports. I used to hate like having to be too young to like play, because I would go to my brother's sporting events and go see them playing, and I was like always young on the sidelines, like always wanted to get in and always wanted to play. Like that was something I'm pretty competitive. Like that's, so that was another part of it, was like, sports was something that I could put that competitive drive into at a young age. So
yeah, I never did sports, and I never like as a kid or nothing like that. And it's like, I don't know, it was weird. I never really wanted to do it. I would much rather be at home playing the Wii or playing like the Xbox. But I was always known to shoot some hoops from time to time. But like sports wise, it was just like, I don't really want to do it. And then by the time I wanted to do it in high school, I didn't really have the confidence in myself to go out there and do it, because you had guys like you had experience. You were on the court, on the field for years. It's like, how to play the game. And it's like, I believe with some athletes who get into sports at a late period, it's like you just have to have that athletic bone, right? It comes natural to you. He's like, you can't teach it. And so that's why I didn't get into sports.
Yeah, I mean, it was always something that I wanted to do. So, I mean, some people, they just, like my oldest brother, Alex, he's a big music guy. Like he tried out sports, and when he was younger, he played a little bit of baseball, but he was kind of the same way as you, man. Like he didn't like it as much. Like he would rather be doing something else. Like he'd rather be playing his guitar or playing the piano or and anything else, pretty much.
Yeah, and that used to really affect me, because it made me feel like an outsider almost in school, because I saw everybody, doing all of these different things, and it's like, well, what's for me? I didn't do any extracurricular activities, and then to come to find out, my skill is pretty much this, doing a podcast and focusing on my writing and stuff like that. But, 16, 15-year-old me, even 17-year-old me, I didn't really get that at the time. It didn't click. So I think it's cool that I'm able to talk with people who have different perspectives on life and just still connect with them at the same time.
Yeah, dude. I mean, this is awesome. I mean, you've been doing this for a while now, and I mean, it's I'm a subscriber, dude. I listen, and you're definitely very talented at this. And I think it's it's awesome what you're doing, and it's you're spreading just positivity, and everybody can always use an uplifting message.
Oh, that's what's up. Thank you, man.
Yeah, man.
And so next question, next thing I want to talk to you about is, when you were doing your games or your meets and whatnot, what were some of the things that helped mentally prepare you for your games?
So, I mean, it was a little different every time. Me, I was kind of a perfectionist. So, whenever I would, either screw up or, I maybe missed a play or, drop, made a bad throw or something, I was kind of the person to like get down on myself. Like everybody knew it. Like there was no, I'll just let them be, like, let them, and in terms of like preparing for that, it was, at least, I'll just talk about baseball. Baseball is, I mean, probably like 90% mental. I mean, believe it or not, anybody who plays baseball or who had played baseball will tell you the same thing. I mean, it's, you can have all the ability in the world and all the talent in the world, but if you don't, if you're not mentally, sharp up top, and if you don't work at it, you don't practice, and you don't sort of visualize like what could happen, when it could happen. Things can get rough, and that's, that was something I always tried to do, was just sort of prepare for the worst. Expect the best, but prepare for the worst. So, I mean, I think really it was mentally getting ready. And I mean, yeah, like I would listen to music like on the bus ride to a game, and try to get pumped up. But I think a big part is just kind of preparing for all of the different situations and all the different plays that could happen. And really it was more so mental than anything. I mean, we did practice, and obviously, Hunting. I'm very fortunate to play for Huntingtown. They were, and still are, They have an awesome baseball program with, shout out Coach Smith and everybody else there. But yeah, I would say like mentally preparing was probably the most important thing.
Yeah, I feel like that's also a key aspect in life too, just mentally preparing yourself for pretty much anything. That could be with an exam in school, or you could be going into the job and you don't really know what to expect, but you just have to mentally prepare for it, because even though you don't know what to expect, you still got a job to do. You still got stuff to do, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, it's the same way. I mean, it's kind of like, it's representative of real life. I mean, but it's a game.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on when you were talking and you said that you're a perfectionist, because I'm a perfectionist, and I'm sure.
Oh man, you get it, dude.
And I'm sure my uncle, he's probably listening to this right now, and we have conversations all the time about me being a perfectionist, because sometimes it comes to my advantage. I always think about what I do with my next step, and sometimes it prevents me from doing anything that can harm me. And then sometimes, like you said, when I mess up on something, it's just the end of the world. Like, I'm stupid, I'm an idiot, like, why am I doing this? And it's a hard balance. It's hard to find that balance of it's okay to mess up and get yourself back up, or it's okay to accept defeat.
Bro, literally same, man. I mean, like, everything you just said right there is is how I am with myself. And it's something that, like you said, it can be used to your advantage. I mean, when I do something, I really do give it 100%. But on the flip side, if it's something that maybe is outside of my comfort zone, maybe I don't think I'll be good at, it's like, well, why is it worth doing at all? Like, if it's not going to be perfect, like, and that's where I think it's harmful.
Right.
And, like you said, whenever I mess up, it's like I'm beating myself up. I'm, getting down. And that's where, like, I mean, there's so many times I can't even count how, when I would mess up, or I make an error, or I do something, when I'm playing baseball, I screw up in the field, and my coach would just be like, "Dude, Coop, like, relax, like you're all right, like it's fine, we'll get it back." Like, that's something that I've always still struggling with, but I'm glad you can relate to that.
Yeah, I would say the one thing with me that I'm working on is, sometimes accepting rejection, because I'll ask people to be on the podcast, and sometimes they'll be like, "No, I don't really want to do it," and that's fine. I move on to the next person. And then there are times when I'll reach out to someone, and I have this really great idea of having them on the show. I have all my questions planned out and everything, and they just ghost me, and they say absolutely nothing for days, and it's like, I really wanted that person on, and it's a huge disappointment. It's a huge letdown.
Yeah, dude, I can only imagine, man. I mean, that's got to be tough.
Yeah, but, like I said, I bring up God again, it's where, God humbles me, and I always, ask him, if it's in your will, it will happen. And if it's not in your will, it's not going to happen. And I just pray that you give me the peace to let it go, because sometimes I'll just stress myself out thinking about it.
Dude, yeah, I mean, same here, man. And that's something, again, talking about, God's will, not yours. Like, some things are just out of your control.
Exactly.
And, there's no use getting upset about them. And it's hard, dude. I mean, it definitely, nobody's perfect. Like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But, some things are, out of your control, and you just need to learn, to let go. And if it'll be, it'll be.
Right. From your perspective, because I'm sure I got some people listening who may be perfectionists, closeted perfectionists in their own right. What would you say to someone who struggles with that fear of just messing up and just screwing up?
Well, so I guess, it's definitely a struggle, and it's going to take some time. But, don't, first and foremost, don't let that stop you from doing anything. Like, I mean, me, some of the things that just kept me, like, I was uncomfortable with, and I feel like, like, even this, like, I wasn't sure if we were going to be talking, kind of like deep like this, but I was like, you know what, like, let me just go out of my comfort zone and try it. Even if it's not going to be perfect, like, it's better to be real than, and mess up, a few things than to be, just present some fake version of myself and like, have it all planned out and perfect. Like, it's okay to mess up. And, from that, like, don't live in shame. I think that's another thing that, we people, especially perfectionists, want to like beat themselves up over things that are out of their control. And, maybe if you screw up, if you do something stupid, you make a bad decision, it's okay to feel, guilty, right? It's okay to learn from that mistake, but, you shouldn't live in that. You know what I'm saying? You should move forward. You should learn from that. I mean, every mistake is just an opportunity to learn something new. So I would definitely say, don't make perfectionism keep you from, being able to do things because you're worried that you're not going to do it perfectly, but, get out of your comfort zone and try new things.
Yeah, you hit it right. You hit it right on the head. Like, I remember when I started this podcast, it really wasn't gaining the traction that I wanted it to be, by the first month and the second month. So I was like, you know what? I give up. And for like almost a month, I did not record any episodes. And then one moment I was just meditating and just God put it back in me. He put that passion back in me to keep going once again. And then from there, I just kept reaching out to people. I was consistently putting episodes out. And then by the time I got to September, October, things started to really pick up for me. And that was just because I stayed, persistent, and I stayed consistent with what I wanted, even if I failed and messed up. Because I had episodes where it was just god awful, and I hung the phone up and I was like, this didn't go that well. Maybe I shouldn't release it. But, I learned from it and I kept doing it. So I would say just keep going. Like you said, keep moving forward. That always gives you the confidence to keep going, and then that's what's going to help you in the end.
Absolutely, man. I 100% agree.
Yep. Now, let's shift gears over to Honeytown. In your 4 years there, what were some of the lessons that you learned there from the teachers and mentors that helped you out?
I know, being involved in sports and, with Huntingtown athletics, definitely, I know you had Coach Jennifer on, right? Tobias?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah, so, he, like, when I was playing basketball, him and Mr. Gross, they were, huge influences in my life. And, Mr. Gross, I had a class with him, and he still kept up with me, kept in touch with me. And, when I stopped playing basketball, and, sort of just focused more on baseball, like he, was still, talking to me, and, I'd go into his office and, sit down, talk with him a little bit. And then, again, Coach Smith and, all the baseball coaches, really helped me. I think, one of the main things that, being involved in sports with gave me was, again, like structure. Like, I know we talked about that with our families and growing up in the church, but like also with sports, like it sort of gives you guidance and direction and structure at a time where, being 16, 17, 18 years old is, one of the hardest, especially in a young man's life, like that's one of the hardest part. Even, now into college, it's still hard, but being that young and, trying to figure out your way and having, mentors and coaches to, sort of that have been there and been in your position to, sort of talk to you and coach you along and help you through. That's, they basically, it teaches you perseverance pretty much.
Yeah, it is. And I'm glad you touched on that because it can be difficult, senior year of high school when, you're told you have to go to university and you have all of these decisions that you have to make. And it's like, it's all overwhelming. And sometimes you feel like you don't have enough time to make that decision. And it does get very overwhelming. Did you ever have those thoughts your senior year?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, for me, it was the decision of, do I want to play baseball in college or do I just want to, focus on my academics? And for me, that was something that like, I never really knew because I had a couple of schools that would, would reach out and, came to a few games, but, and it was something that, it took me some time and, prayer and, just sort of really, it was hard for me to make that decision. But, I ultimately decided that, I'm grateful for, my 4 years at Huntington, I remember talking to people in college even who were playing sports, and they, just getting some wisdom from them, saying, look, it's great. And, I love playing, but, they would even say it's nothing like playing in high school with some of the kids that you grew up playing with. And it's, it's hard to balance, and it's, it's not for everybody. So, I ultimately decided to just go to college and focus on the academic side of things. But I mean, yeah, dude, that was a hard decision for me to choose.
Yeah, I would say in life now, since we're both young adults, right? We're not experienced adults. We're young, but at the same time, we're still adults who make decisions for themselves. That's the most difficult thing I feel like for me currently as we're talking right now, because I could reach out to anybody for any type of advice, feedback on how I'm doing things. But at the end of the day, it's up to me to make that decision that I feel like is best for my life. Because it's like for the first 18 years of your life, your parents are making those decisions for you, or your legal guardians. And now, you walk across that stage, you get your diploma. Now everything is pretty much in your hand. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, dude. It's an adjustment for sure.
Yeah, but kudos to you for making that decision to not play sports in college, because there's so many different circumstances that you could have chose. You could have took a chance on yourself and did baseball your first semester, and it doesn't turn out well, and then you go, okay, well, it didn't turn out well, I'm not going to do this. But you were able to recognize the situation, know what you wanted for yourself, and you did what was best for you. And so I can congratulate you on that.
I appreciate that, man, and thank you. And definitely, I couldn't imagine if I was playing baseball thinking about how bad I did my first semester of college without playing baseball. So
right,
I'm glad I decided ultimately not to.
Yeah,
but I do miss it.
Yeah, I bet. I think I was talking to Easton Suppressi a few weeks ago on the show, and he was talking about how he misses playing hockey because he doesn't play hockey anymore, in school and stuff. And he said he had that itch in a way to get back on the ice and play because he doesn't do it in college.
Right. Yeah. Also, Easton. I grew up with Easton. Great friends with Easton. Also, Jack Morales. I know they're cousins, so I used to hang out with them all the time. I still do.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I can relate to that. Like, I still I feel like there is like a little part of me that's like, all right, I need to do something with this. I still do have a competitive drive in me, and maybe that for me is, with this new sales program, maybe that's what what's going to be filling that sort of missing piece. And also, going to the gym and exercising and that sort of thing to keep me active. But there's definitely it is hard to you've been playing sports your whole life, and then just 1 year, it just all of a sudden just stops.
Yeah, and I've heard that from actually my grandfather. I kind of feel like now we're going off on a tangent, but it kind of ties into the situation. He retired after 40 some years working for his job, and I was in my mind I was thinking, I don't know, he's gonna do it. He's been working his whole life, working in the tobacco fields. As a kid, he's been working his entire life. It's like you can't just sit down and give up. It's like, it's not like my grandmother. My grandmother is perfectly content of sitting at home and doing nothing. He's not like that. He ended up getting like a job 2 months later, but
wow.
But it's like,
oh man,
it's difficult when you do something your whole life and then you give that up, and it's like, what's next? How did you cope with that? Not playing sports in college.
Yeah, so that was sort of, I basically started taking, my exercise and weight training. I started taking that more seriously and really started to, invest a lot of time into that and, start to, grow a little bit.
Right.
Something that, I it felt like I needed to do, and also, not only just the physical aspect of it, but mentally, it's weird, as weird as it sounds, but exercise is, has just as many mental benefits as it does, physical benefits. So that's something that, is a huge part of my life as well.
Yeah, my mom always says your health is your wealth, and so you always have to take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, like all of that. With me, exercise, I'm not into, lifting weights and heavy lifting. I probably should, but jogging is my thing. Like, I love to jog. It's so cold outside, but, before we were chatting and it got dark, I put my compression pants on, I put two things of sweatpants on, I bundled up, put my gloves on, and I just jogged 2.5 miles, right? It's peaceful and it's therapeutic and it's something that I like to do.
Dude, yeah, that's awesome. See, that's probably what I need to do more of. Like, I never run. That's something I definitely need to start doing. But I mean, yeah, dude, that's great that you're able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, talk to me about your decision to choose Salisbury and staying in the state of Maryland versus going outside of Maryland. Because a lot of people we graduated with, they went out of the state. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so my oldest brother went to Salisbury, and I really didn't know a ton about it, but I just knew that he had a great experience going there. And at first I kind of wanted, like, I was looking at like South Carolina and schools at, Penn State, like schools out of state. And I applied to a few of those, but, at the end of the day, I think I didn't really want to I wanted to be just far enough away from my parents that I could feel like I was truly on my own, but not quite far enough to feel like I couldn't go back home if I needed to.
Right. I feel you on that. Like with me, I really didn't have that desire to leave home at the time when I was 18. So, CSM was the best route for me because I could have went to Bowie State and pretty much flopped my first semester and then end up coming back home. So I just decided, well, why don't I just go to CSM, stay there for 2 years, get my associates, and then go to Bowie State. And so that's what I did. Now I'm at Bowie State, and it's about 45, 50 minutes away from home. Hopefully when this pandemic dies down, I can get an apartment for myself and just live on my own. And it's like you say, I'm not too far away from my mom to where, I'm still not at home, but I'm away and I'm also on my own.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, hey, that's the smart thing to do. I mean, that's, congratulations again on, getting into Bowie State. Hopefully everything, gets cleared up and everything's back to normal. But that's definitely congratulations, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that because I feel like I've kind of grown a lot this year, like socially, whereas like a few years ago, I wasn't really that much of a social person. And it's like now I really want to put myself out there more, get involved in clubs and activities and stuff on campus, right? Just get my name out there. So, like I said, once this pandemic dies down, hopefully by next fall, campus opens back up, I can just start doing my thing.
Well, absolutely, dude. Best of luck. I'm sure you will, dude. I mean, you've been working hard, so.
Thank you, man. What major actually did you choose when you went to Salisbury?
So I changed my major from when I went. I went in a business. I went in business major, and I remember I was a business economics major, and I took my first microeconomics class and was like, this is not what I want to do. It was another one of the, I got a bad grade in that class. It was not of any interest to me. So now, I changed my major to a communications major.
Oh, nice.
And a minor in marketing. And that's, and I actually, at first was thinking about doing, getting into like doing a podcast and stuff like that. Like I love to talk. I'm very interested in meeting new people. But, I know there's also a whole lot more that goes into it that I don't really know.
Right.
So I decided to take, more so of the marketing and sales route.
Yeah, that's what's up. Like, communications was actually my major before I switched to education, just because, like, I feel like I can reach, reach kids like me in the classroom setting. So that's why I chose education. But with communications, like you said, I love talking. I love getting in front of a microphone or getting in front of a crowd and just completely captivating them. It's almost like they're in the palm of my hand and I can control the way they react based off of the words that I say. And it's like, I love communications.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. Same here, man.
Which aspect are you looking to get in? Is it journalism or is it more broadcast?
So, for me right now, it's actually like, I'm kind of hoping to get into like a sales type of position, sales and marketing. So that's like I guess the more specific major that I'm in is it's human communications. So, with that, I do know, a good friend of mine actually just graduated from Salisbury, and he had that major, and he works for a great company actually here in Annapolis. And, I was just talking to him and getting some advice from him, and he was telling me, look, you can graduate with a degree in communications, and still, if you get involved with the sales program, which was the one that I just found out I got accepted into, he was telling me, you can use that, and you can get in, find a good job and, get some exposure and expand your network. And, fortunately I was able to, get into this, sales and marketing, institute at Salisbury, and, hopefully it'll, some doors will start to open for me. I mean, they already have started opening for me, and I've been, reaching out to people, and so, trying to just expand and, expand the network and meet new people.
Right. Talk to me about the importance of networking. I feel like my listeners, we got to talk about networking. I think it's such a big thing for us, our age group, to network and reach out with people. Talk to me about that. What's the importance of it?
Yeah. So I mean, like, it absolutely, it's a huge part of, like, making sure that you're able to, it's basically, it gets your foot in the door. And if you expand your network and look for, new opportunities to meet new people and connect. I mean, I know, like, LinkedIn is probably, like, the most popular one, the popular, like, in terms of, like, an app that allows you to expand your network and connect. But I mean, with this, the sales class that I recently took, I mean, my teacher, she talked about basically, making, having good first impressions, and, making sure you just go up and get out of your comfort zone and meet somebody. Like, go shake somebody's hand. Go, if you're at, like, an event, like, I know we had to do a sales competition at the end of the semester, and and I remember just asking for people's emails, and asking for and connecting with them on LinkedIn. And I think it really does allow you to sort of get to know that person. And then, like, the really important part of it is they can give you advice. Like, they will give you advice. I remember when I had to try out for this program, I one of the kids who was in it, I knew. We went to the same gym, and I didn't really know him, but I just walked up to him and introduced myself and said, "Hey man, I'm trying out for the program. I know you're in it. Any advice you could give me?" And he did, and he thanked me for coming up, and he said, "Hey man, that looks really good. I won't forget that." So
yeah,
that might have been a big reason why I eventually got into it.
Mm-hmm. The biggest thing with me with networking has been with my professors, and I think that's one of the negatives of the pandemic, is that I didn't really get the chance to have a relationship with them. I couldn't go into their office during office hours physically. Sometimes it was over the phone, and it would be like a minute or two, and then it would be the end of our call. But I can always remember going to my professor's office and just sitting down, just asking questions about different assignments on how I could make it more better, right? I was never satisfied with anything. Like, I can always remember, I've never been handed an assignment and gone, "Oh, okay, this is great, thank you." It's always been like, what can I do to make this better? Like, how can I get an A on this? And so, working with my professors at CSM really helped me. They wrote me great letters of recommendations, and it's helped me get great scholarships that has been able to pay my way through school. And so, just like you said, being able to step outside of your comfort zone and talk to people can really get you far in life.
Yeah, dude. I mean, exactly. I mean, I know it's definitely a little more difficult to do that when you're not in person. But it's nothing that an email can't do for you. So that's good that you were able to do that, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. What's one of the major lessons that you've learned as a college student right now?
One of the major lessons that I've learned. Well, I mean, overall, for me, it's been stay the course. Keep trying to improve, keep pushing forward. And luckily, I've had a lot of people around me to help lift me up, help me through the way, mentors, in the form of coaches and my family, and again, my faith in God. It's been a huge part of me being able to sort of get over some of the things that I've struggled with. But the main message I would say is just don't give up. And one of the the main verses of my year, at least for 2020, was because I wanted to grow, was James 1:4, which is let perseverance finish its work, so you can be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And that was something that I still that's something that's very important to me. I want to keep going. I want to be the best man that I can be. So yeah, that's probably one of the most important things I've learned this year.
That's incredible, man. I think one of the things I've learned from college is, like you said, keep moving forward. That's always been my philosophy by Walt Disney, is to just keep moving forward, even on my worst days where it's just completely awful and I just want to cry and smash something and just give up. It's like I always drop down on my knees and give a prayer to God, explain how I feel, and then I wake up the next morning and I feel completely motivated and ready to take on the day. So I think it's just being able to, be accountable for how you feel and just understand that some things aren't going to go your way. It goes back to us talking about perfectionism. I like to nitpick. I like to micromanage every little thing in my life and try to control everything when he has the control. I don't have any control. One of my favorite scriptures, I don't remember the chapter, the book off the top of my head, but it's trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, but on his. And so by leaning on his word and on his understanding of things, that's what gives me the peace of mind to let stuff go.
Absolutely, man. I mean, that's awesome, dude. And I feel the same way. I mean, you said it.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yep. Shifting back to talking about the Lord now, how would you describe your relationship with him during your day-to-day life?
It's, I mean, every day is different. I mean, like you said, there's good days and there's bad days. And like you said, there's days where it's just like I don't even want to like why. It's just like I'm asking why. Like what? I'm angry. I'm pissed off about something. But I try to just have an intentional relationship and really in the purpose to sort of take myself out of it and sort of learn to give, the glory to God, right? Like, I mean, it's hard to sort of, be selfless and, think, you start to realize that, not everything is about you and there's some things that you just can't control. But, I would say my relationship is one that is, one that I want to continue trying to grow. And something that I feel like I've been able to do this year. By the grace of God.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that too. Like, do you see yourself continuing to walk in Christ and have the faith to continue to keep doing what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like you said. I mean, it's hard. It's hard sometimes, but moving forward and keep going with it is something that gives me peace of mind. Like knowing that it's not all in my control in a way is like a good thing. Like some things it's good. Like you want to control and you want to like make sure everything's on point. But I mean, God's always got a different plan than what you might think. So it's good to have some hope and it's good to have help.
Right. And plus, I gotta say, man, like when God blesses you with something that you didn't think you were gonna get, and once he promotes you to that next level, it's like, man, like all this hard work it was worth it. It's just such a good feeling. Like it's hard to explain. I'm sure you've experienced it,
Yeah.
but it's like once you experience it, it's like, okay, I have to keep going because, my blessing is gonna be even better.
Absolutely, dude. And I mean, like just thinking of times where I kind of would stray away from it and how bad things got compared to like now when I'm really intentionally trying to pursue a growing and a building relationship with God. Like it just, I mean, doors have started opening up. I mean, I've been talking about that sales program, but not just with that. I mean, new relationships that I'm making, new connections with people, and job opportunities starting to open up for me, and it's just been great. And it's like, all right, like I got to keep going with this. Like even when it's hard, like this is the way.
Right. I've also learned that when you help other people, God sees that and he'll bless you and promote you even further. Are you someone who's a very giving person? Do you help people out in your community?
Yeah, I mean, again, like everything right now with COVID is a little, has everything a little backwards, but my brother actually is the music director at one of the churches here, and I love when I'm back home. I love to get involved with that, and whether it be he a lot of times will have people singing in the choir and whatnot, and like if you need somebody to fill in for like something, like I want to help out with that. And I think, I mean, like you said, just in general with like it's not once you realize like we're all people, we're all children of God, like. that's when you sort of gain new perspective and realize, oh, it's not all about me. Like, I should be helping everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. I think with me, I talked about my situation earlier with my father, and it's like, yeah, even though I am going through that, somebody's got it worse than I do. I may be dealing with this, but someone's probably out here on the street right now in the cold with no heat, and it's sad, it's depressing, but like you said, it makes you shift your perspective and realize it's not all about me all the time.
Absolutely, dude. I mean, it's, you said it word for word.
Yup. We are recording this right now in the year 2020. The year is coming up. Once this episode drops, it's going to be 2021. So I got to ask you, what are some of the goals that you see for yourself coming up in the new year?
Well, I mean, obviously, continuing along in a growing relationship and trying to, be a man of God and, continue along with that. But not only that, but I mean, I do, now that you asked me that, what do I do to like get involved? That's something that I really do want to start to take a little more seriously, like get involved with, whether it be a food drive or, a Habitat for Humanity type of thing. Like, that's something that I really haven't done much of.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of realizing, like, oh yeah, I need to start doing more of that. Like, I really haven't. But I really want to try and continue to really help other people out. Like, and realize that, look, I always have something to be thankful for. Like, even when life gets hard, like I've been trying recently to just sort of, take a deep breath and say, look, I don't know why this is happening right now, but like, thank you. Because I know that, somebody, like you said, somebody always has it worse.
Right.
And, I think that's important to remember.
For sure, man. Like, I think the two things I'm trying to do next year is to be more present, be mindful in my situations, not trying to think about the next thing that's coming up, just thinking about everything going on in my day right now. And then, like you said, just helping out other people. I'm sure this podcast is helping somebody out, right? If I'm impacting one life, then, I'm achieving my mission in what God wants me to do. So long as I can help other people out with the issues that I go through, then, my mission is complete.
Absolutely, dude. I mean, that, like, you're doing great things with this podcast, man. I mean, it's, again, I'm honored to be a part of it, and I hope whoever listens to this maybe can relate to some of the things we're talking about and realize they're not alone in some of the things that we struggle with, and grow from it.
For sure, man. And my final question to you before I go ahead and let you go is, if you could offer any piece of advice to your former self from 3 years ago or 5 years ago, what would you say to that old Spencer?
All right. I would, first I'd say relax. Like, again, some things are just out of your control. And I'd also say, start getting out of your comfort zone. Like, I really didn't start getting out of my comfort zone until I got to college, till, within the last couple of years. Try new things, even, you're going to fail, but, try, fail, learn, and grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, man. I actually wrote a poem a month ago, and it was like a letter to my former self when I was 15 years old. And, everything in that poem was just pretty much just relax, chill out. Like, everything is going to turn out in your favor. Everything is going to work out. Everything that you worry about and stress about, it's not going to matter once you get to this certain point in your life. And I think being mindful and present with your situation, that's what brings everything back into perspective, and that's what allows you to keep going, because there's a lot of negative influences in this world, right? The devil is always working. I think, for example, with me, like, I wrapped up a podcast with someone last week, and he literally came into my room, just went into my mind, sprouting all these lies and stuff about me, that I'm not worth it. I should stop doing this podcast. Like, I'm not worth it, like, what's the point of even doing anything? It's crazy how he likes to try and attack you, but, shifting that negative perspective and focusing on the positive things, focusing on your purpose, why you're here, that's what keeps you going. And so you hit the nail around the head when you said just being able to relax, because it's a hard thing to do, but I think the more you practice it, the more life will get better.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, it's, it's something that, it definitely takes practice, but, you just got to realize that, all right, some things, like, you just need to learn to let go. And I mean, like you said, I mean, people can, it's a lot of people have, think, bad thoughts, negative thoughts. And I mean, like you said, I mean, it happens to all of us, but it's important to remember the good things, like thinking of the positives, like really reflecting on, all right, what good has come out of this? It's not all bad.
Yeah. There's a book by one of my favorite pastors, Cornelius Lindsay, and it's called Suffering in Silence. I'm going to send it to you once we wrap this up. It really helped me out a lot, and he has different topics on different issues he was going through in his life and how he was suffering in silence, and he just felt really bad about himself and how he came out of it. And it's almost like a learning experience of he's trying to teach the reader to not follow in the same footsteps he did, while also, encouraging others to stay in God's will. And so I think I'm gonna definitely send that to you because it really helped me out.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, please. I'd love to give it a read, man. That's awesome.
Yep, and I just gave him a shout out on the podcast because now everybody can hear it. But that's right, Cornelius Lindsay, Suffering in Silence, for anyone that wants to, read it. But
dude, yeah, awesome.
But thank you, Spencer, so much for your time. We shot the breeze for over an hour. Like, I always believe that whenever a podcast goes over an hour, it's one of the best ones. So this one was definitely a gem, and I'm so appreciative of your time, man.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. I love this. I wasn't sure. Like, I was a little hesitant at first, but I'm really glad you asked me to do this, and I'm thank God I agreed to do it, man. I'm looking forward to seeing if anybody connects with this, man.
For sure, man. Absolutely. We're definitely going to stay in touch.
Sounds good, bro.
All right. Take care, Spencer.
All right. Have a good one, man.
Yeah, you too. All right, y'all. This wraps up this edition of the CedTalks Podcast. Stay blessed and stay encouraged. And once again, I'll be back with y'all soon. So thanks.